Yeah, it's a good whiskey.
Happy Thursday. There's a 10-ounce show with a side of whiskey.
Cheers.
Hey, guys, I want to say thank you for those that have been with us last Thursday because we had over 12 people watching the LAPD Haunted Museum event. So thank you so much for the support and for the donation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So today we have an awesome guest. I'm gonna pass it over to Will. Before we move forward, do you have anything to say? What happened?
Yeah, about the so a little bit of recap. So Audrey, I know that we're gonna take up a little bit of the introduction to your, but we did a haunted paranormal investigation over at the LAPD museum last Thursday, which ran us into the middle of the night, like midnight. Actually, it was like 1 o'clock when we left.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. We didn't catch much on video or audio, but there were some experiences that some of the people that were investigating with us got to experience and got to see. One of the doors in the restroom on the second floor actually slammed on us all on its own. It started like creaking, and that we did catch on audio. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it on video, but there was like 5 other people that were in the room that were hearing that door creak, and then wham, it slammed.
Well, actually, they heard footsteps first, and then the door slammed.
Oh yeah.
And so then we also had someone log in themselves into our show. We had no idea who it was. Someone from Instagram logged in.
We got hacked. I don't know,
like a cyber ghost or something like that.
You got hacked by a ghost.
Yeah.
We don't know because they were actually stating that they were there. They were like, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, why are you in our feed? And they were talking about
I was like,
there.
Who's this? Oh, sorry, I just came from whatever. And I was like, but anyways,
it was weird.
Hopefully it doesn't happen.
But it was very interesting for our audience. Just stay tuned and make sure you click on the notifications because we are going to be providing that video and a shorter version of those videos in the investigation that we did, and we're going to go put it onto our Facebook and our YouTube channel.
And there's more to come. So
we actually, because of that, we got invited to 2 other places to do a paranormal investigation. One of them happens to be the Heritage Museum, which is close by to the LAPD Museum. So we'll stay tuned for that. And there's another place, I can't think about it right now, but stay tuned. Subscribe, tell everyone else to subscribe, and click that notification so that you know when our paranormal videos come up.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll just put it. All right, Will, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Let's get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This month is Pride Month, and you know, I had the great honor of working with Audri back when I was a drill. I got my drill over here in the back corner, hiding. But
you mean a drill hat?
Yes, correct.
Watch it. Okay. Let's make sure
your drill instructor hat.
So in the Air Force, we call MTIs, military training instructors, and Audrey was one of the best. I swear, she was great. Definitely took care of some students. But something I learned later on was, you know, what she goes through in her personal life. If y'all don't remember, back in September 20th, 2011, President Obama recanted the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was a big movement that definitely changed a lot of things. But I want you to introduce yourself, Audrey. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing now. You know, how have you come from? That was back in 2009, 10.
Yeah.
So tell us what you've been up to. You know, how's it going?
Sure. So hi to everybody's watching. Thanks for having me on your guys' podcast. I think this is really cool that we do this for everybody who tunes in, but specifically for veterans, because who can relate more to each other than us, right? So I think that's pretty cool. So just to give you a quick backstory, I'm Audrey. I'm 34, or I'll be 34 in August, but it feels like I already am. So I'm 34. I'm married. I have twin boys who will be 3 here in a couple months. And I'm active duty Air Force. I have been for a little over 15 years now. So yeah, like Will said, we worked together back in 2009, 2010. And it was a good time. A lot of lessons learned. But I mentioned I was married. I have a wife. So we've been together for a little over 9 years now, and we've been married for 8. So we conceived our boys together, and yeah, it's a totally different dynamic in the men it was when I first came in 2006. So
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Will. Is your wife are you military too, or not?
No, she's a civilian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So big question, what are the big changes that you've seen? I mean, from when 2011 that I was talking about, when the Don't Ask, Don't Tell was changed, you were in before that, like what, 5
Right.
years, I think. What are the big changes, milestones that the Air Force that you've seen, change and progress throughout the years?
So I think that's kind of a loaded question because I think there's a lot of layers to that. When I first came into the military, I was 18 years old. And like I said, I'll be 34 soon. So I've spent my entire adult life in the military. So in a lot of ways, it's shaped who I am today, right? Good and bad, probably. But when I first came in, I was still, I mean, I knew that I was gay, but I was still figuring myself out. I was an 18-year-old kid. So I guess the biggest thing was understanding that, and it kind of bleeds into what I do for the Air Force. I'm a paralegal. So I dealt with having to discharge individuals under the homosexual conduct chapter in the Air Force. So that was eye-opening, really, because here I was. I mean, it had always been my plan and my desire to join the Air Force specifically, and just be part of the DoD as a whole. And then to learn, as I got a little bit wiser, that it didn't matter how much I loved the Air Force or how much I contributed or how much I sacrificed and how good a job I did. All they cared about was if they found out that I was sleeping next to a woman instead of a man, that I would be let go. I would be discharged too.
Wow.
So I think the biggest change was just not having that fear constantly, of, and I'm pretty reserved by nature, I think. I open up and I'm close to people, but I've never been, I don't know what the right term is. I guess for Pride Month, we'll use the word flamboyant, right? Just to get a correlation there. But I've never been that way. So I was never one to, prance around or like be super affectionate in public or anything like that. Not because of any way that I feel about it, just because that's not me. But it was still in the back of my mind that I didn't need somebody to see me and know that I wore the uniform. And then the wrong people find out and now I'm out of job because, it wasn't something that the Air Force agreed with. So I think just the fear, that you can be who you are and there's still some prejudice and some ignorance, I think, in the military, just like in society. But I think overall, I think that's a big weight off your shoulders. And then now that I'm married and we have children, we're no different than any other family. My wife and I probably argue about the same things that, any other couple does. We get on each other's nerves the way any other couple does. We have some of the same issues that we're literally no different. Our children, we're just raising them to be the best little humans that they can. So yeah, it's just, understanding that really it's cliche, but love really is love, and you just, it looks different for everybody. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I know that there was a lot of changes, and what you said, a lot of people are still kind of ignorant about, the way that people feel. Uh,
That was actually one of my questions. I know that. Do you feel lucky that you chose the Air Force? Because it's been, for the longest time, the Air Force has been very progressive in a lot of things. It's leading the way in how they treats as soldiers in general. It might have not been the case prior to this change, but I don't know if you've seen anything different or heard anything different from other branches as to after this particular change.
So I have friends that have served in other branches, and I agree. I think that the Air Force in general, kind of writ large, takes care and has a tendency to take care of their people a little bit better than the Army and the Marines. I can't speak to the Coast Guard.
and
Why not?
And
We are gonna agree with that because I mean, you guys get the hotels when you guys on the field.
right, exactly. So no argument there. So I do agree that we probably get treated a little bit better. Honestly, I think that I honestly think that men who are gay have it a little bit rougher than women. Um, and I think that's both in society and in the military because, it's been my experience. I haven't had anybody openly discriminate or feel discriminated against because I am gay. I've felt it, I think, more because I'm brown and in certain places that I've been, right? Or maybe it was a combination of both. It just happened to be that I'm brown and I have a wife and they don't like either one. So who knows? But I think I can't speak to, being treated a certain way, at least not to my face. So in terms of other branches, friends that I have that aren't straight in other branches, I don't think they've had a really rough time either. But it would be interesting to hear a male perspective on that.
Yeah, it definitely would.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to get somebody, him, but I'm trying to get him on the show probably for another segment. So we
And
Yeah.
it's a little difficult because of you putting in yourself. And we thank you so much for putting for discussing about this because it's very difficult for many people to just be on a show. Period. Whatever
Sure.
it is. Right. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity.
yeah. So I have a question. As far as you've been married for 8 years, 9 years. Sorry. So what has been the experience for your wife as far as like family functions within the military?
if she's there, you could call her out and have her get on camera.
Yeah.
She said she said she's already showered and her hair's down and she's not going to be on camera at this point.
It's all good. It's all good.
Jen she does say hi though.
What up?
The show.
So I personally think my wife is beautiful, so I like to show her off everywhere we go. Maybe if she wasn't so attractive, I wouldn't feel that way. But yeah, I think my wife is. I'm just keeping it real.
all the viewers out there, we don't endorse this comment, okay?
Yeah, this is not a 10 HUD endorsement.
Yeah, you can totally put that on me.
We just
Yeah,
did.
so I'll give you an example. So I was and this kind of bleeds into your question. So I attended one of my last assignments was overseas, and I attended professional military education in Germany. And for my graduation, I was a class leader for that class. And I mean, a ton of us graduated. And, my flight at the time, we were talking about our spouses coming and blah, blah, blah. So it was predominantly guys just because, that's normally how it is. There was a couple females in there, but one of the guys was like, "Oh, is your wife coming?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "What does she look like?" Like just like out of curiosity, I guess. So I pulled up a picture and he was like, "That's your wife?" So it I always like to bring her around, and I mean she has a good time, and she, she's very personal. I'm more of the introvert, I think, in our marriage. Well, not I think, for sure. So she's, everybody has a good time with her and she's a good time. She'd be sipping a margarita right here, had she not showered already and taken off her makeup and all that. Um, so in terms of, before, so when we got married, we actually had to, I was actually still an instructor. We got married back in 2013, and we actually had to fly up to Washington State to get married because it wasn't federally recognized at the time. And Will can attest to this. As an instructor, you don't have a lot of time to take off and do personal stuff. So the reason why we chose Washington State was actually because they waived the waiting period for active duty military. So we went up there and we got married, and then a couple months later, we had a ceremony back home with our friends and family, but it wasn't actually federally recognized at the time. So when we had that ceremony with our friends and family, we were already married because of that. So then shortly after, I PCS to Florida, and she joined me. And then that's when DOMA was repealed, the Defense of Marriage Act back in 2013. And that's when everybody recognized that I had a spouse. It wasn't like it was a real thing. And it was always real to me, but under the law, federally, it wasn't. But then we encountered some challenges because, she was trying to get into school in Florida, and, typically if you're military, your spouse is considered under the same rules, like they get in-state tuition or, whatever. But that wasn't the case for her. So that delayed her school. So it's just a lot of things, I think, that heterosexual couples don't have to deal with. And I think that when people talk about, privilege and things like that, when you're not in the situation to understand or to even empathize because you've never had to deal with that, I think it's difficult for people to put themselves in those shoes because they never experienced things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was something that Air Force came out with where you can claim somebody as a living dependent, like not married, but you're living with a person.
Cohabitant.
Like a special form request where you can actually get like dependent rate based on that person cohabiting with you. And then I know later on what you were talking about came out. But I always thought the same thing. Like I thought that they would recognize you, but you just brought some stuff to light that a lot of people, I bet, don't realize even was a problem. Like you were saying.
Right. Yeah, and I mean it was a big deal, because it was just a matter of even being recognized. Like I was married, but when they cut my orders to go to Florida, I didn't have anybody accompanying me. She was going to go with me anyway, right? But anything, was just going to be out of pocket that we were going to have to do for her, even though she was legally my wife. She was my spouse. Yeah. But then DOMA got repealed and or overturned, and I ended up getting my orders amended so that I could get, the entitlements that I would just like any other married individual. So it's just crazy that it took that for, and like I mentioned, I'm a paralegal. So, I mean, the law is something that I understand.
Yeah.
It's difficult, and it's difficult for people to understand, like I said, if they've never dealt with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, You know, the first thing that comes to mind is the knucklehead airman that you tell, don't get married, you know, as soon as you get a text, and then they go and find the first stripper they can find at the bar.
Yeah. See, and a stripper had more rights than my wife.
See, and that's what people don't realize, you know, like the struggle that y'all, you know,
Right.
The TRICARE,
Dependent.
Yeah.
they were
Yeah,
asking
you know, and that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing. She, you know, she wasn't under anything until that happened, until DOMA was overturned. And then suddenly it was like with the stroke of a pen,
is that
it was done.
more of a personal question, of course, is that after that happened, is that when you said, you know what, now I can have a family? Was that something that was preventing you? Do you think?
No, actually, no. So when we got married, I think I was like 25 going on 26, and Jen's a couple years older than me. So we weren't anywhere near wanting to have kids. We've always wanted to enjoy just us being married. And we did that. So our twins will be 3. We've been together 9 years. So we spent a good 6 years just by ourselves to, you know, enjoy being married.
I have kids. I know how it is. We have kids.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once you have kids, you know,
you don't have kids. You have a fire team.
I do have a fire team.
Oh no, yeah, no. I mean, we had twins, but even if we would have just had one, we would have not had any more. We're good. We don't need any more.
It's because Pedro is a typical brown.
We're being racist, bro.
You wanted to fit the mold.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I get that. I'm the oldest of 5, so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Audri, you know, it's so awesome to talk to you. You know, you definitely shed some light on a lot of issues.
Wait. I don't know if you're closing this up. Hold on.
No. I'm not closing this up.
I want to. So you've been in the military for about 15 years now, and you've gone through history with what you know. What is your recommendation for new airmen, new service members that want to get into, or new civilians wanted to get into the service, and they're afraid to because, you know, of either being gay or being just different, or you know.
Sure. You know, that's an interesting question, I think, because there was a point in time early on in my career when, you know, I've always loved wearing the uniform, always. I mean, I love the Air Force. It's given me opportunities that I never thought I would have.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I was a young airman that I didn't know if I would stick it out, because it's difficult. It's difficult to know that you can just be discarded, not because you're doing anything wrong, but just because of who you are. Like, that's difficult. So there was a point in my career, especially, you know, like I mentioned, I used to process these discharges for these individuals that they didn't do anything wrong. They just happened to be gay. And the wrong person saw them at the wrong time, and they were now being processed for discharge. So there was a point in my career early on when I didn't know if I was going to stay. And I grappled with that a lot. But, you know, sitting here at 15 years, you know, I met my wife down in San Antonio. And had I decided to get out, I never would have met her. You know, I met this knucklehead doing MTI duty, and had I not stuck around, I wouldn't have met him. I've had so many amazing experiences, you know, and it was just because I chose to be resilient and to see how it went and deal with it if it came. But, you know, I was always vigilant. I was always careful. I was always mindful. So I think approaching it with just what it is, you know, like, I mean, understanding what the position you're in, but also I think it's important to always kind of think one step ahead, two steps ahead. So like, getting your education is one thing, right? Like, because nobody can take your education away from you.
No.
So, and I know education is big for Will, right? So, I mean, I made sure that, one of the things I did was finish my bachelor's degree. I just got accepted into a master's program that I'll start soon. Education is really important to my wife and I. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. So I think just no matter what, pursuing what you want to pursue, but always having a backup plan, I think is the advice that I give, because it could not be, something because you're gay or because you're different. It could be a medical issue that you run into along the way. It could be anything, it could be somebody that you meet that you don't want to leave and you want to start a life with somewhere and you want to put down roots. It could really be anything. So what I would say is just be proactive in setting yourself up for plan A, B, and C.
I like how you say, resilience, because that's something that we are seeing a lot with new generation that don't have resilience. They kind of break
Right.
down quick, right? So I love what you said. Resilience is really important. So just kind of push through, always moving forward, no matter the obstacles that you have in front of
Right.
you. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually like a military kind of instillment where all of these, that's why I'm all for, I lived in Israel for about a year, and
They thought he would belong to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say you probably blended right in.
Yeah.
I do. I do speak a little bit of Farsi, but anyways, but it's mandated to do 2 years of service out there, and it just creates different individuals. I'm in the same page like with you, where I came from a different country. I was not born here. I'm browner than brown, and if it weren't for the military, I wouldn't have been afforded the opportunities I have now. Although it was a struggle getting out of the military and readjusting, I don't think that I would have been able to do the things that I have done now, being Hispanic and I wasn't born here.
Right.
In no way has my experience been as hard as other people. I cannot say that, but I do thank the military for shaping my path.
Taking our soul. That's why we don't feel pain. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if you look into my eyes, I don't have a soul.
Audrey was a soul taker.
I was.
Oh, really?
I was.
Did
Yeah.
you belong to the Reapers over there at 24th?
What?
The Reapers? Weren't you like a part of the Reapers? What crew were you in?
No, we were. Why am I blanking on it? You guys are the Punishers, and I'm like, I think we were the Reapers.
Yeah, you were the soul takers.
Jen's in the laundry room, and she was like, "Yeah, you were."
A Reaper?
Yeah.
It's funny how
Yeah.
Sorry.
Air Force talking about Reapers.
But no, I think that that's true. That's something that I battle with also, with the younger generation, is finding different ways to motivate and different ways to communicate and different ways to teach and mentor, because the way that we grew up in the military is not the same way you can train today. So it's it's really different. It's a challenge.
No, I used to get punched in the gut all the
got
time.
hit in the stomach.
Yeah. Well, I never did that, but I wanted to. So.
Yeah, they would do it.
She did. She wouldn't tell you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we're live, so I'm pretty sure you're never done it.
Yeah.
I've never done it.
Never done it.
Actually, I've never even wanted to.
Well, what?
Okay.
Never. I spoiled my kids. I gave them milk and cookies. If they're hearing this right now, you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Cookies.
I love when they hit us I love when they hit us up and they're like, "Sir, you remember doing this?" You know, I actually don't know what you're talking about at all.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah,
wrong instructor.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of somebody else.
Testing.
I think we're losing both of you.
Oh yeah, I think so. There you go.
All right. Can you guys hear us now? We good to go?
Yep, we're good.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Audri, for sharing us with your experience. Is anything, Will, you want to say anything before we and then it cuts off again?
Have you ever eaten them?
Oh yes, that's the question I always ask.
You gotta ask.
I gotta ask.
No. And the reason why I phrased it that way,
Jose, you can't ask that question.
Have you actually ever eaten gravy? Huh?
I have, yeah, but not while I was deployed or anything. I was a beast cadre, which is an instructor out at our simulated deployment camp in basic training, which you guys would probably laugh at, but that's okay. But yeah, so when we were out there, I've had them, but not actually in the field deployed. So I don't know if that gives me any credit or not, but I have had them.
So Pedro, you got to ask the question because this is the Pedro question.
Yeah. What is your favorite MRE?
Anything Italian.
What do you mean anything?
It's like
the Italian ones are fine. What was it, like lasagna or
the chicken pesto right here.
I don't know if I ever had that one.
Number 23 on the menu.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that one would be fine. I would probably starve if I was given eggs of any sort. Number 9. I'll look for that one at the commissary next time.
I gotta get back to those. Audri, you were so great. You definitely shed a lot of light on us. Definitely a lot of things that we didn't even realize. I mean, we hear the struggle, but for you to express, what you've gone through and the transition of history and resiliency, you definitely are motivating a lot of people out there. I could tell. That's one thing that as instructors, so I knew you weren't going to fail at this, is we motivate it, right? We push people forward and make people accomplish things that they never thought they could, right?
Right.
So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was cool.
Hey, Pedro, Jose, you got anything before we close out?
No. I'm good. If you ever run out of staples, we'll send you some.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Don't leave after the outro. And
don't. Oh yeah.
Don't leave after the outro. Hey guys, for those who've been watching, thank you so much. Will, can you put the banner for 10 Hut Show? Yeah. So make sure you guys you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share this video because it can definitely help us. Thank you so much. We're at 80 subscribers now, 20 more, and we'll be getting our channel customized. All right, guys. Until next time, salud.
Drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly, definitely. Right?
Take it easy, guys.